We've spent the main part of the second half of Chapter 4 converting standard form to intercept form through factoring, and we were able to use that method to find x-intercepts. In Lesson 4.7, we're going to try a different approach. Completing the square is a method that converts from standard form to vertex form. Similar to what we did in Lessons 4.3 and 4.4, we'll start off just by learning the method of converting from one form to the other, and then we'll take a look at how to use that as a way to solve. Over on the right, we have 6 steps to convert from standard form to vertex form. Now, if you're thinking that's a lot of steps, I could have had 7, but 6 or 7 steps, does it really matter? Ha ha. All right, anyway, sorry, I just felt like I had to do that. All right, so if we start in standard form, the first thing we're going to do is put a parenthesis around just these first 2 terms, ax squared and bx. The constant is going to stay on the outside. And if a doesn't equal 1, we have to factor whatever it is out of both the a and b coefficients, even if it makes b a fraction. And trust me, it will. All right, once we do step 1, we take a look at whatever our b value is, and we literally just take half of that. And then we square that answer. So it's kind of 2 steps in one right here. Whatever we get for that second part, we're going to add that answer into the parenthesis, but then subtract it to the c value on the outside. In the parenthesis, we're going to factor. And when we factor, something unique is going to happen with our result from answer 2. And when we get that, we're going to write it as a perfect square binomial. And binomial is just like x plus something squared. That would be an example. Once we do that, it's kind of magical how it just turns into vertex form. Maybe magical isn't the right word, I don't know, but we'll take it. This is converting from standard form to vertex form. We're going to ease our way into the process by starting small. In the middle here it says find the value of c that makes the quadratic expression a perfect square. Then write the expression as a perfect square. Here's example A. Y equals x squared plus 16x. And there's no constant at the end. As we follow our steps, step 1 is just to put a parenthesis around both of those terms. And there's nothing on the outside, so that's totally fine. Step 2 is to take half of that b coefficient. So if I take half of 16, that's just 16 divided by 2, that's 8. And then I'm going to square that answer. 8 squared is 64. Step 3, I'm going to add it to the inside of the parenthesis. So that would be y equals x squared plus 16x plus 64. Now all we're doing right here is just making it that perfect square. So that's the number for c that we have to add in on the inside. Then it says write as a perfect square. So this is going to happen, everybody, every time we do this method. If I say factor that expression, what are 2 numbers that multiply to get 64 but add to get 16? That would be positive 8 and positive 8. So we know that we start with x and x, and we get positive 8 and positive 8. Now, where have we seen 8 before? It's always the answer that we get in this part of step 2. That will always be that perfect square factor. It just kind of works every time that way. And then we can write this as a perfect square. Y equals x plus 8 squared. And that kind of looks like the beginning of vertex form. So again, we're just modeling the idea on how to make that happen. We're not actually doing the full conversion. For example B, f of x equals x squared minus 4x. So now let's see what happens when we have a negative b value. Really not much changes. If we put a parenthesis around the x squared and x term, there's nothing to factor, there's no constant at the end. Take half of our b value, so we do have to kind of be careful here. We're going to take half of negative 4. And that answer is negative 2. We're going to see that later. But here's now another thing to consider. We have to square that value. We have to square the negative and the 2. And anytime you square a negative number, we get a positive answer. So please make sure that when you square whatever number is on the inside, your final answer in step 2 is a positive number. And that's what your C value technically is to make this a perfect square. So what we do with that is we just take that on the inside, write f of x equals x squared minus 4x plus 4. That's technically a perfect square trinomial, but we're going to factor it to make it look like vertex form. If I ask you what are two numbers that multiply to get positive 4, but add to get negative 4 in the middle, it would be negative 2 and negative 2. The x squared would separate into x times x. We'd have minus 2 and minus 2, just like we did up here, which means we could write that as x minus 2 squared. And again, just keeping in mind here that all we're doing is making that a perfect square binomial. We're not actually converting to full vertex form. There are a couple extra pieces that we're missing. All right, let's try the last one. Our last example in this row, g of x equals 5x squared plus 45. Would you please add an x in there? Otherwise it doesn't work, and we want that to work. All right, so we have g of x equals 5x squared plus 45x. Now the first thing we're going to do is put a parenthesis around the first two terms. And often I get asked, everybody, why don't we factor out an x when we do this process? We only factor out the coefficient, not an x variable, because we're not trying to convert it to intercept form. We're trying to convert it to vertex form. It's just a different process. Because there's that a value out in front, I have to put a 5 out in front of the parenthesis. And that would give us x squared plus 9x. So now my b value changed from 45 to 9. So that's step 1. If there's a coefficient in front of x squared, we have to take it out of both terms no matter what. Step 2, now we have to take half of 9. And we're not going to use a decimal, we have to keep it in fraction form. Half of 9 is literally just 9 halves. And again, that's something we're going to see later. But when we have that 9 halves, we have to square it. And what that means is we're just going to square the top and square the bottom. So 9 squared, 9 times 9 is 81, and 2 squared, 2 times 2 is 4. Now that's technically what we have to add on the inside of the parenthesis to create a perfect square. If we write g of x equals, we have 5 on the outside, x squared plus 9x plus 81 fourths. Now, if I were to ask you to factor this back in lesson 4.3, you probably think I was crazy. How on earth could we find two numbers that multiply to get a fraction and add to get that b value of 9 in the middle? Well, guess what? Two numbers that multiply to get 81 fourths and add to get 9 are 9 halves and 9 halves. 9 halves plus 9 halves would be 18 halves, and that equals 9. 9 halves times 9 halves, we already calculated that. There's your 81 fourths. So if you can remember that step, even dealing with fractions, we can factor. X squared would separate into x times x. 81 fourths would separate into 9 halves and 9 halves, plus and plus. Don't forget, there's that 5 out in front. And so we'll have g of x equals 5 times x plus 9 halves squared. So 81 fourths is what would make that a perfect square, and the perfect square binomial is at the bottom. Now let's do some actual converting to vertex form. The last two examples that we're going to do today convert each quadratic function from standard to vertex form. Then decide if the function has a maximum or a minimum. So let's talk about that over on the left quickly. When we're talking about quadratic functions having either a maximum or a minimum, we're talking about the sketch of the graph. And I know we've already taken a quest on this, but to decide whether or not it has a maximum or a minimum, take a look at the a value. If a is positive, that means the graph is going to have arrows that go up towards the top. So it would look something very basic like this. You'd have arrows that go all the way up to the top. Now, if I ask you, does this graph have a maximum or a minimum? If the arrows are at the top, it'll go up to positive infinity forever. There would be no highest value, therefore no maximum. But at the bottom, it has a minimum. It has a lowest point, and guess where that is? It's at the vertex. So if A is positive, the graph will have a minimum at the y-coordinate or the y value of the vertex. And that's like how we described our range. The y value was the lowest point, and it would go up towards positive infinity. So a minimum at the y value of the vertex. So now that's if A is positive. Now the other side, if it flips upside down or reflects over the x-axis, that means A would be negative. And now the sketch of your graph would have arrows at the bottom instead of the top. So just put that something like that. And if I ask if this one has a maximum or a minimum, well, taking a look at the top of the graph, it has a highest point, doesn't it? The arrows at the bottom mean it's going to continue on forever. So in a scenario like this, when your A value is negative, you're going to have a maximum. That is maximum, I promise. And again, it's going to be at the y value or the y coordinate of your vertex. Whoops, I don't know what I'm spelling. I meant to write vertex. There we go. And it'll be easy to tell once we look at these equations in vertex form what each of those answers are. Okay, back to our examples. Convert each function from standard to vertex form. In example A, we have y equals x squared plus 7x plus 4. I'm going to zoom in so we can see this a little bit more clearly. And there we go. Step 1. Put a parenthesis around the x squared and bx term, leaving that constant at the end. If there's a number in front of x squared, we have to factor it out, but in this case it's 1, we're good to go. Step 2, take half of the b value. Well, half of 7, again without decimals, is 7 halves. Remember that number. Maybe you want to star it. Ooh, that's messy. Maybe you want to put a star by it or circle it. We are going to see it later, even though it's a fraction. But then we have to square that, which means we have to square the top and the bottom. 7 squared is 49, and 2 squared is 4. Now remember, step 3, we add that on the inside, and that creates that perfect square when we factor it. But we also have to remember that to balance the equation, which is something we weren't actually doing up above, we have to subtract it from the constant on the outside. So if you add it on the inside, you have to subtract it on the outside. And that keeps the equation kind of the same value. It's just going to look different. All right, now it's time to factor. Think to yourself, what are two numbers that multiply to get 49 fourths, but add to get positive 7? 7 halves and 7 halves. It's always the answer in the middle of step 2. Keep that in mind. So we're going to separate our x squared into x times x, and then 7 halves and 7 halves, and they're both positive. On the outside, now we've got to do a little bit of detective work. We have to figure out what's going on here. If I think about getting a common denominator, I'm just going to put 4 over 1. And if I know that both of those, or that 1 and 4 would both go into 4, I can multiply that constant by 4 over 4, and that would give us 16 fourths minus 49 fourths. So just a little bit of fraction work. Notice how we have two parentheses that are the same. We can write that as a perfect square. X plus 7 halves squared. And if we have plus 16 fourths minus 49 fourths, 16 minus 49 is negative 33 fourths. And look at that, everybody. That's in vertex form. So that's part 1. It then says decide if the function has a maximum or a minimum. Well, if we think about the template for vertex form, the a value is technically out in front. So what number is written there? If we didn't write it, what number would be there, I guess? It's technically a 1. If a equals 1, that's a positive number. And that means the arrows would go up towards positive infinity. Our low point on the vertex then would be a minimum. And in vertex form, the vertex itself would be at negative 7 halves, comma, negative 33 fourths. But the minimum, we just use the y-coordinate. So the minimum is at negative 33 fourths on the y-axis. We've got our vertex form answer and our minimum value answer. Our final equation in standard form, f of x equals negative 2x squared minus 12x plus 19. This one's pulling out all the stops. We're changing as much as we possibly can. Step 1, put parentheses around your x squared and bx term. Notice we have a negative 2 out in front. That means I'm going to factor that out of both of those terms. If I factor negative 2 out of negative 2x squared, we have x squared left over. And watch this, everybody. If I factor out negative 2 out of negative 12x, that gives us plus 6x. So be careful there. Notice the sign changed when I factored out my negative 2. The 19 at the end stays 19 at the end. That's step 1. Step 2. Now our b value is positive 6. I'm going to take half of 6, and that's 3. We're going to use that number later. And this is kind of nice. I square that and just get 9. Now that's the number we add to the inside of the parenthesis. So we have f of x equals negative 2, x squared plus 6x plus 9. And then we have plus 19. Here's where we have to pause. So this is where you might want to put a big star. Now on the inside of the parenthesis, it's all fine and good. We added 9. But because there's a coefficient out in front, we actually technically added negative 2 times 9 on the right-hand side. Negative 2 times 9 is technically negative 18. So now the opposite of negative 18 is positive 18. Let that sink in for a minute, rewind it, and listen to that again if you need to. Negative 2 times 9 is negative 18. To do the opposite on the outside, we had to add 18. All right, let's go from there. To factor now, what are two numbers that multiply to get that 9, but add to get 6 in the middle? 3 times 3. So that's going to be x and x, 3 and 3, and they're both plus. We have that negative 2 out in front, and on the outside, 19 plus 18 is 37. Writing it as a perfect square, which will ultimately convert it to vertex form. Negative 2 times x plus 3 squared plus 37. There's our quadratic function in vertex form. And then finding what the maximum or minimum is, now our a value is negative 2. If a equals negative 2, that means the graph is going to have arrows at the bottom. We'll have a maximum at the top. And the maximum is always the k value, so at 37. This is part 1 of converting to vertex form by the complete the square method.